Hi, this is Jason Strawley. I'm with Pro Sound Effects, and today we're going to be doing a sound redesign for a scene from one of my favorite anime series, One Punch Man. The reason I wanted to do a sound design tutorial for anime is that it's just so different from what we're used to in most American media. The sounds are huge, they're over the top, they're very expressive and non-literal. And they're synthesized. And the other reason I want to talk about anime is we just completed work on our latest library through Pro Sound Effects called Anime. And the reason we made this library is because these types of sounds, the ones that we grew up hearing and continue to hear today, are actually really hard to find. They're almost impossible to get a hold of. So we did a ton of research and we spent a lot of time in front of our modular synths coming up with what we think are some really cool anime sound effects. So other tools that we use to work on this sound redesign, we're going to be editing in ProTools. That's my DAW of choice. You could be working in any number of other audio workstations. Just about all these rules will apply regardless. And we're also going to be using SoundQ, the new product from Pro Sound Effects. And we're going to use that as our library database manager. So we're going to load in our anime sound effects library, and we're going to search up our sounds, and we're going to be able to play with them and edit them and get them into the timeline the way we want them to. So let's jump into the Pro Tools session and see what we got. All right, so here we are in Pro Tools. We are going to go ahead and start on like our, what I would call like a pre-edit. We're going to watch through the clip, kind of figure out what kind of sounds we're going to need, what the mood and tone of everything is, and stuff like that. So without any further ado, let's just jump in. Let's go full screen on this video here, and let's just watch the fight. It's like 25 seconds long. Just want to get a feel for it. This is Saitama, the hero, versus the main bad guy of the first season, Boros, in the show One Punch Man. So let's take a look, see what we got. All right, so right off the bat, we got a big old punch, flurry of punches. Very big, energetic punch that knocked him back. We're in some alternate universe of energy. We got like some beams, we got some clashes, we got more beams and clashes. Yep, we got that. Okay, slow-mo, big old punch, explosion. So having watched the video, we can kind of analyze it a little bit here. And just a warning, I press R and T a lot when I'm in Pro Tools. That's zoom in and zoom out, and I just kind of habitually am pressing it. So you're going to see R and T show up here in the bottom of the screen a lot. So just get used to that. Okay, so on the video, we see that we've got these two characters. So Saitama, or One Punch Man, versus this alien bad guy, Boros. The big kind of the tonal thing that I'm seeing here is just that they both have just ridiculous amounts of power. And every movement, every single thing is just completely, utterly insane. And that's exactly how I like it. That's why this is probably my favorite anime series of all time, because it's just so over the top all the time. I wish I could be a sound editor on this show. It would be a dream come true because of how crazy it is. So we have all this raw power. They seem to be fairly evenly matched in power, because we see the bad guy punches Saitama here and knocks him pretty far back. So we've got to have some sort of like friction sound for this kind of movement here. They're both insanely fast. Here we have the classic anime trope of like they're just in an alternate universe of energy, like they're changing space-time around them in the middle of this fight. So we need something for that. And then we kind of get into this sequence where they're flying and there's like an energetic sort of beam thing happening from Boros. And then when they come into contact with one another, there's a small explosion of energy. And then there's a speed burst as they accelerate in a new direction. So we have this whole sequence where we have this beam thing, explosion, followed by a speed burst, and then a beam, then an explosion, and so on. So this goes on for a little while. We come together in some sort of like final clash here. Maybe they've kind of caught up with each other. Oh, and then that's right. We have this moment of kind of slow motion, very briefly in that wide shot, before we punch in really tight, and we got a close-up of the fist here. And look at that frame right there. We definitely need the classic anime like light beam sound. Let's find that frame. There it is, right there. We know we need something special for that. And then it just turns into a big old heavy explosion. And then we're out. So that's like one of the craziest 25 seconds you're ever gonna see. So we're gonna try to get all of that edited. So now that we've analyzed the video and kind of picked it apart for what we're gonna need, I just want to take a second to talk about the ProTools session I'm working in, just in terms of how I'm gonna navigate it. I kind of actually, pre-baked this like a cooking show. I kind of put this in the oven before we started the show. And I've got this kind of pre-organized into 3 effects pre-dubs. We have an A, B, and C, and these are all in folder tracks. So Shift F to open the folder track, and you see there's 8 effects tracks inside each one of these pre-dubs. So there we got our B, and there we got our C, and then in the orange one down here, I just have like the FX stem and the output to the speakers. Since I kind of pre-organized this a little bit, let me just explain a little bit here. First of all, a pre-dub is just kind of like a smaller subset of a stem. So all of these sounds are going to fit into the effects stem. But a pre-dub is maybe, where I work, we call it food groups. So the letter A is going to represent the food group that contains explosions and blasts. Like kind of generally like to put the loudest stuff in the first pre-dub at the top. Pre-dub B, BFX here, is for beams and energy, because we have a lot of beams and energy stuff. So anything that would fit into that category is going to go here. And CFX is everything else. So I just categorized it roughly into 3 chunks: explosions, beams, everything else. So as we are spotting and editing, just keep in mind that's kind of how this session is organized. Next, I kind of want to get to know the library a little bit. And to do that, we're going to be taking a look inside SoundQ. And I'm Alt-tabbing. I'm on Windows, by the way. Alt-tabbing to get over to SoundQ. And I already have the anime library pulled up here, and SoundQ is just searching that library only. I turned off any other libraries. If you want to focus where your search is looking, you can disable on these little check marks here. So we're only looking at the anime library because I want to kind of make sure everything in this edit comes from there. So to get to know the library, one thing that's very useful is UCS, the Universal Category System, that's kind of come out of Skywalker Sound somewhat recently. It gives what's called a category ID to the beginning of every file name. So right off the bat, just looking, there's hundreds of sounds in this library, but as I scroll through, I can very easily identify where all the categories begin and end. So like we're looking at laser guns, we're looking at robot movements, we're looking at sci-fi energy, we're looking at swishes, cartoon sounds. Just at a quick glance, the UCS file name really, really helps to identify where stuff is, especially if it's a library you're not super familiar with. So, I'm just going to take this opportunity to look through these categories and maybe kind of identify some of the types of sounds we need for this edit, and just see if any jump out as being super useful. Or maybe another thing I like to do at this stage is maybe play some sounds and just like to think of the off-label use of the sound. Like if I did it in reverse, or if I sped it up or slowed it down, can I turn it maybe into something else that it isn't? So just kind of like listening for some clues here, and just getting a feel for the library. So let's see, we got some like helicopter sounds. No helicopters in this one. Bullet ricochets. Some of these might be interesting for when they come into contact with each other in the bit where they're flying around like crazy. Let's see what we got here. Let's take a listen. Make sure this is turned down a little bit. I don't know how loud this is going to be. All right. Okay, so we got these retro stylized ricochet sounds. Oh, that one's great. Yeah, I kind of really like these that are a little bit more complex. Kind of has like a two-part feel to it. Okay, so these might be useful. Let's kind of remember these bullet ricochet category for stuff that we can use. Let's see, we got some design sounds. Let's see. Okay, so some kind of like stylized, like noisy whooshes. That's back to the Okay, that might come in handy. I know there's a big flurry of punches at the beginning. That's maybe a little too slow. Maybe something like that for the flurry of punches. We got these acceleration blasts. I have a feeling these are going to be good for in the flying sequence when they accelerate very quickly away. That one's a little too long. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Something like that. It's not, I wouldn't call it an explosion. It's just kind of like a burst of noise with a little bit of delay on it. And I don't know, to me that could sell maybe the acceleration speed that they're having in their fight. A bunch of different flavors of these. Pretty retro-y. All right, so let's see, moving on, what else we got? Electric sparks. I don't know, pretty much every category is gonna come in handy. When they are punching each other, there's like that pinkish, purplish electricity kind of thing that happens. So we're probably gonna want some sparks. Let's see, robotic. Probably wanna avoid anything robotic. What's this? Okay, maybe something like that. Sure, like a little lower. Okay, that might be more like it, like this kind of high frequency. Pitching up doesn't really help it too much, but maybe something like that for when they punch each other, these short zaps. Oh, and then next category, explosions. So we know we're gonna need a couple of explosions. So let's see. All right, kind of deep, sustained shockwave. Oh, here's another thing worth mentioning. This particular library, a pretty good chunk of the sounds was mastered to tape to give it kind of like a more old school analog feel. And it's gonna say tape in the file name right about there. So I think the sound design for One Punch Man is pretty modern. So just to give my own kind of spin on it, my own flavor, I'm gonna try to use the tape mastered stuff where I can. I'm just kind of curious to see what One Punch Man would sound like if it was done back in the old days of when I was watching cartoons when I was little. So that's what the tape stuff might be good for. It's a little high frequencies are rolled off. It's a little saturated, a little compressed. It just gives it kind of retro vibe. Let's see. Kind of like a sweetener. Oh, that something like that might be useful. Just kind of like really big, transient on the attack, and then like a tail as it dies out. Something like that. Actually, kind of like these for this particular scene. So we got some good explosions to play with. All right, so let's see. We left off on explosions. Guns. No guns in this. But talking about off-label use. Anime being what it is and being as like expressionistic as it is, might replace punch sounds with gun sounds. I don't know. So let's just listen to a couple of these and see. Okay, maybe we'll put those in the maybe pile. You know, if we're looking for something for a punch, that might help us out, getting a little crazy with it. Let's see, guns, laser beams. Here we go. We know we're gonna need beam stuff for when they're flying, and Boros is generating that, you know, pinkish beam energy. So let's see, what do we got here? Okay, it's really, really retro. That's maybe too retro for this particular. I do kind of want to remember this for, we looked at the frame, it was like a close-up of One Punch Man's fist, and there was like a beam of light coming out of it for just that one frame, so maybe something like this. That. Okay, let's some energy. Okay, I'm actually kind of liking this one for that flying around scene for those beams. It has a nice attack to it. Let's see what it sounds like on the tail. Okay, and there's a noticeable like drop off in the energy. Because the way I see it, they accelerate, there's like a burst of energy, and then they impact with each other, and then the energy is going to kind of drop off in there. I just punched the mic, so here's that. Okay, one thing to keep in mind with these is that in the scene, these are like really, really short, so we'll have to do some editing to trim these to fit. Okay, so let's put that one in our back pocket. I'm just gonna kind of randomly click in a totally unhelpful way. Like that one, that might be a little harsh, but I like it. Retro, very retro. Okay, that one's especially epic. Okay, I'll put that one in my back pocket for later. I'm sure there's something I could do to flag these, but at this point I'm just kind of browsing through and just seeing what all we got in the library. We go from laser beams to laser guns. Okay, so these are shorter little things. Robot movements, let's see, mecha footsteps. I don't think we're gonna need anything like that. Sci-fi energy. Yeah, we do have the part where the alternate dimension of speed and power that they briefly enter definitely needs something. Power up. The SS stands for Super Saiyan, in case you were wondering. Okay, so those are definitely options. Then we got some swishes. Okay, these are all organic, like naturally recorded swishes, so I think that's a little too realistic for what we're trying to accomplish here. Okay, there's some synthesized swishes. Spinning weapon. Okay, maybe for a punch or something, we can go with some of these synthesized, kind of less realistic sounding swishes. We got some cartoony sounds. Might need to remember that. I think there's a moment where we see something where that might work. Okay, so these are kind of like, oh, here we go. We're getting into the comedic stuff. This is like the goofier side of anime, which is, I don't know, One Punch Man is funny, but I don't know that it's that kind of funny. Let's see, we got some UI sounds, don't need any of those. Sword clashes, don't need any of that. Some bigger whooshes, some wind. Oh, synthetic wind, maybe for some of the parts that have the like devastation happening. Desolate wind. Okay, and then we got this one that's like a little more catastrophic sounding. Okay, cool. So I kind of have an idea of some of the categories that we're gonna grab from on this edit. You know, it's always good to get to know the library, especially if it's new, like this one is. Cool, so let's jump back to our Pro Tools. And at this stage, you know, I would typically just go ahead and start spotting. So I'm just gonna take this one pre-dub at a time. And so I'm gonna open up the folder for AFX, and I'm just gonna make a selection there and hit E to go full screen with it, just so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And we've got 8 tracks to work with. This method of spotting, I'm gonna put in like empty clips. I'm gonna render empty clips onto the timeline and use these for my timing reference on the edit. I don't do this all the time. I only do this type of spotting when the density of sound effects in the scene is a little bit overwhelming. Because it's just gonna help me to break down exactly and make sure I don't miss any sounds, and just make sure all my bases are covered. So it may be a little bit more time consuming, but I've just found for me, and it's probably different for everybody, I really benefit from just taking my time with the spotting and putting these empty clips in like this. So, you know, if you have a different way you like to spot stuff, I don't know, put it in the comments, let me know. I'm willing to try something else. Okay, so we're starting with pre-dub AFX up here. And this is explosions and blasts. So I'm just kind of scrolling through, and right away we have this big punch right here. Yeah, and I'm just kind of like frame advancing here. And one thing about anime, if you've ever looked at it frame by frame, it's just utter chaos. You know, we have like the shots are bleeding into one another. There's like all this kind of motion blur and stuff. I mean, of course, when you play it at full speed, it just gives this great illusion of like speed and intensity and stuff. But looking at it frame by frame, it's kind of crazy. I'm just using comma and period to nudge one frame at a time here. All right, so we have this big punch that lands approximately there-ish. And like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of non-literal, so I'll put something here for explosions and blasts in case I decide to drop something in there. So Alt-Shift-3, Option-Shift-3 on a Mac, basically the same thing. And now I just put this like half-second long empty clip in to just remind me that I'm gonna need some sort of like blast sound there. And now I'm gonna continue to frame advance. We have the flurry of punches. I don't want those to be as powerful because they have speed instead of power. So skipping through those, well, it's just utter chaos. We're rearing back for this big old punch, and then there we go. It lands right there. We can see that frame, everything turns red. That's our cue. Okay, so let's definitely do a blast or explosion there. Alt-Shift-3, Control-S. I'm going to press that one a lot. You want to make sure you're saving. Okay, so then we get, he's knocked back. Get some friction stuff. We're in this energy universe here. A charge. Okay, so there I can identify that as like one of those acceleration burst moments, and I think that definitely belongs in this pre-dub. So I'm just looking for that frame. Let's see, we're going to indicate the first frame by like when that image first starts to kind of resolve there of the shock wave or blast wave thing kind of starting to populate. Okay, so let's just do we got a spot there. And then just proceeding down the timeline, we got one there. And let's see, let's watch this in full speed. So I'll make sure I'm not missing one. 1, 2, and then it immediately cuts into the punch. So I don't think we actually see the impact there. We just kind of see the aftermath of it. And then there's a acceleration right there, that frame. Consolidating that empty space on the track. And there's one, let's find one. Okay, there that is. Okay, and I'm just gonna continue to spot. You know, I think this process is like, once you kind of understand what I'm doing, it's pretty self-explanatory. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna fast forward the video now, and I'm gonna continue spotting this, and then we'll rejoin when I'm finished with the spotting process. Okay, so here's where I ended up at my first attempt at a spot. So once again, explosions, blasts, stuff of that nature on the A pre-dub, beams and energy on B, and then everything else just kind of loosely on C. And I think this is where I'm going to start cutting sounds in. And then, you know, once I kind of get these roughed in, we can kind of evaluate at that point what's still missing, what still needs fleshing out or additional design, stuff of that nature. So at this stage of the edit, like I kind of hinted at, I would call this like the roughing in stage. You know, I like to kind of fill in the spots that I have and just kind of have a framework and, you know, and just kind of keep things moving. It'll keep me from getting like, you know, the sound editor equivalent of writer's block. Just, you know, if my mission is now to just fill in all these spots, after I get that all filled in, I can start to pick it apart. And I've just kind of found that, like, usually after I rough stuff in and all the layers are in, I actually feel pretty good about it, you know, if it's in a little bit of context and stuff. So that's going to be phase one, is just getting some sounds dropped in. Okay, so I'm going to collapse my folder tracks that I'm not using, Shift F, and I'm going to focus in on A, because I'm just going to go alphabetically here. And I'm pressing E there to go full screen with my selection. All right, so first spot, what do we got? Okay, it's the big punch. And I indicated earlier that this being anime, a punch sound in and of itself may not be enough. We might want some sort of like stylized explosion or blast of some kind here. So I'm gonna layer this though. I'm gonna grab a punch sound, and I'm gonna grab some sort of impact or something too, and we'll just drop them both in, and then maybe we can like A/B a little later on and see what we like. All right, so I'm gonna Alt Tab over to SoundQ, and I don't know. Let's look for a punch. So I'm just searching up punch here. Fight impact. Is this category that comes up, and I think this is where we're going to want to be. Okay, we got a sequence, we got some, all right, so I think I like one of these basic ones. It's kind of like, I don't know, I call this like an Indiana Jones punch. It's just like the big stupid cartoon punch. Yeah, sure, let's just grab one of these, and get back over to Pro Tools. So here's my spot. I'm going to press the semicolon to just move the selection down to an empty track. I guess I could put the sound right on top of the spot, but let's try it this way. All right, so let's go back to SoundQ. And then once in SoundQ, once you have the selection made, simply press S, and it's going to spot to Pro Tools. And since that was at the beginning of the file, the transient should be right where I want it to be. Yeah, so let's see. Okay, I mean, timing-wise, it works. It's not exactly lighting my world on fire in terms of the sound of it, so it definitely needs a little something else. So we jump back to SoundQ, and let's look for EXPL, the first 4 letters of the category ID for explosion. Okay, so I want to keep this one like tight. I don't like the word sustained is something that I want to avoid here. I'm looking for something that's like short, tight. It's not going to go, you know, too long. These literally say tight blast in them. This might be. Kind of like number 2, like the brightness on the transient. I feel like it's going to cut through the punch sound that we already have in there. Sure, let's go for that. All right, so let's make sure we have a selection made in Pro Tools. We're just going to layer this and S to spot. Oh, and I had a selection made, so it only went to that selection. Okay, so this is what we can do. We can undo that move, and let's do this. Okay, there we go. We got the whole tail of the explosion and everything. And I think I want to tighten this up because the tail of this is starting to bleed into this flurry of punches. So even though this is like one of the tighter explosions we could find, I think we can even do better than this. So I'm just going to make a selection there. Delete that. Let's do a crossfade here. Oh, and I got to check my edit preferences. Setup preferences. Okay, so we're going to go editing, and I just want my crossfade to be equal power. So I'll just set that up in here. So now, from now on, when I just do that smart tool, crossfade, I love to use the smart tool. There we go. And we'll just give that a fade out with G. Double click to bring up the fade dialog, and your left and right arrow keys will change the shape of that fade very quickly. So let's give that a quick like exponential out. And let's just make sure this is aligned. There we go. Using the Windows key on a PC to just snap this transient to that transient. On a Mac, that's going to be the control key. All right, so let's see how this goes. Oh, and my fade went crazy when I moved it. Okay, it's getting somewhere. You know, in isolation, you know, I'd probably want to tweak it, but like I said, I want to rough this in and just see how it sounds with some of the other layers in there. So I do like the thump that the punch is giving me. Shift S to solo. I like that little bit of thump, but I also like the kind of transient and then the tail on this explosion. So the combined effect of the two. That might work. I might need to tweak that fade a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, this is the next big punch. All right, so bounce over to SoundQ. And, well, let's start with the explosion because, well, we know it's going to be there. So let's just spot that in. And I'm doing the thing where I have a selection again. Not doing myself any favors there. Okay, and let's just go to slip mode with the tilde key a couple of times. Give that a fade in with D. And let's see how that goes. Now, this punch can breathe a little longer than the other one because we have kind of like a gap where there's no major sound effects happening right there. I do want to tighten it up a little bit though, so I'm just going to delete a little bit of this midsection and just bring that in a touch, crossfade over it, and let's just get it out by whatever that is. All right, just try that. We could probably go even further. Okay, and now let us find our punch. And just really Really, any one of these will do. S to spot. And let's just line up our initial transient there. All right, and give that a quick fade out. And let's see what we got here. Okay, so, you know, it's sounding like an explosion. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. Let's hear it in the mix. We'll find out shortly enough. I do want to lengthen that one a little bit. Oddly enough, I kind of want to shorten that one. And something about the tail of that one that I'm not crazy about. Okay, let's try that. Okay, now what do we have next? We have an acceleration blast as Saitama jumps away to dodge this guy's attack. Let's time that a little differently. Let's go to that frame. Okay, so this is, I think we had seen in the design category, DSGN, we had these acceleration blasts. All right, so it's about trying to find one that's got a good tight transient. Ooh. I think I like this resonant one. It's a little sharper at the beginning, for lack of a better word. It's got some delay on the end. I'm not totally sold on, but I'm thinking I actually would like to try one of these. All right, we have selection. And we spot it in, and let's see. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna help the tail, that delay, get out a little quicker. Yeah, I like the initial sound for this. I think it's gonna cut through. I'm just, that delay is just muddying the waters a little bit though. It's my sound, I can get rid of whatever I want. Okay, that might work. And let's see, moving through. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so like the next 5 things are all those. So here, I'm just gonna bring in just a ton of them. So I'm just gonna bring in this whole thing. And now we can kind of cut to fit. So I'm just gonna make sure tab to transient is turned on, and it is. So I'm just gonna tab to that, and tab to that, and let's get our little video window out of the way. Tab, tab, missed one, tab. And I just like to kind of checkerboard these. Oops. All right. So since these are right on the transient, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to Windows click that and just align it like so. Boom. That. And then we run out. So let's copy a couple of these. Control C, Control V. You know, if there's this many in a row, I think we can get away with having some of them play. All right, so let's just watch for timing real quick. Okay, so the first thing I'm hearing is that the delay is kind of getting in the way a little bit again, especially in this middle where it gets really crowded. But like I said, I like the way this particular sound kind of cuts through. So I think I want to keep this first one where we have some room. But I think I want to lose it here through this really busy section. And maybe also just kind of keep the last right there. Yeah, I think we can get away with a delay there. But I think for the rest of these, we don't want that delay muddying up the waters. So, you know, sometimes you drop something in that you like the sound of initially, and it's just not exactly right. So let's see, let's go to one of these more simple ones. Yeah, this one's simpler. All right, so let's just spot this thing in here. Tab, Control E, Tab, Control E, Tab, Control E. All right, and a little bit of checkerboard action so we don't overlap. And we got room, we could throw this up here. We can throw this up here. Oh, cancel. I want to, for some reason, it's just hitting me that I kind of want to reverse those. Well, let's try this. I feel like this is actually the bigger impact. Yeah, although I don't like that. Let's just throw this one down there. See how that works. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna give all these just a real quick G fade out, just so we don't get any unwanted clicks or pops. I don't know if there's like, a lot of times when there's really low frequencies in the clip, you might not even really see it on the waveform, but if you don't give it a fade out, it's gonna pop on you. So I just kind of habitually fade everything out. Okay, so that's all of our kind of acceleration bursts in whenever they make contact. I'm liking it. Yeah, this big one, the second to last one, I'm thinking this maybe is an acceleration blast. I think this one's an explosion. I think that's what I missed here and why that's not working for me. So let's try that. Let's get an explosion in there. EXPL. I highly recommend browsing the UCS spreadsheet guide that they have on their website, available for free to check out, to learn these categories, because you're going to see these a lot more. Okay, so let's just hear some explosions. A little too long. I don't want something old school, just retro. That's kind of, I think it's too long. Yeah, what was this? I think we're gonna go with this one here. Let's spot that in. I know I said I was going to use the tape ones. This is not a tape one, but I feel like there's a lot going on here, and I kind of want this to cut, so I want those high frequencies in there. Let's see. Okay, that's better. And then the last spot on this pre-dub is the big explosion. And this is a nice long, I'm looking up here at my selection link that's over 2.5 seconds. So this is a good long sustained explosion. Let's see, we have explosion, and let's add sustained or SUS to that. And let's see what we got. That one's really retro. Yeah. Well, let's hear these. I think that's my one. That sounds like an old World War II movie almost. Okay. Obviously this goes way past where we need it to go, but I think this is all just kind of like pretty uniform. Like from here. Yeah, let's see, the pitch starts to fall about there, so let's lose that. Yeah, let's kind of back time a little bit. Let's see, so we want the, let's see. Okay, it's still too long, but I'm liking the effect anyway. And let's see, it's still missing something to me. I feel like when we see this like crazy animation of this fireball, right about there, I see a face in that. I think we might want actually a second explosion right there, just to kind of thicken this up. So let's see. Yeah, okay, so this one doesn't have to be sustained. Let's just get a nice, oops, don't want to add a backslash. And let's see. Ooh. We have that one on tape. Yeah, okay. Let's get this one in there. S. Maybe it's a little late. Let's see. I'm going to clip gain it down a little bit so it's not competing with the original one. On a PC, it's Windows Shift, and I've got a regular mouse, like a gaming mouse, so Windows Shift mouse wheel to quickly adjust the clip gain. Let's see. Oh, let's fade that. Yeah, let's soften that up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And we'll just give those roughly the same fade out. We may end up hanging past the end. We'll see. Okay, so from the top, let's just make sure we didn't miss any blasts. Punch is getting pretty big. Okay, yeah, now I'm hearing those other ones and I'm liking them better. So let me just snag one of these. Yeah, it's better. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. It just feels better to my ear. I feel like I want to hear more of that explosion. And I don't know, this explosion, it's feeling a little restrained to me. I'm going to try to find one more to A-B. I don't know how else to describe that. It just feels like a little too... It feels like it's an interior almost. Let's try that one. It doesn't need to go on that long, that's for sure. Yeah, we probably want this. Oh, I hit Y. Everybody's favorite Pro Tools hotkey. So if you press Y, it's going to throw your selection to the beginning of the timeline. I only can think of one scenario where I use that one. That's if I'm recording Foley and I need to move my beeps back to the beginning of the session. Other than that, it's just a hassle. All right, let's see. Yeah, I like that explosion better. I'm gonna leave the other one in there. All right, so again, just roughing in. Right, so I'm gonna close that folder. I'm gonna move down to my next folder track, and I'll zoom in on this, make a selection, press E a couple times to fill the screen. And we are now on our beams and energy. So we got a spot right here at the beginning. I kind of wanted a charge up sound of some kind for the big punch from Boros here. So I don't know what I have in mind exactly. I'm not sure. Let's just type in power up and see. Let's see, we got these energy, the Super Saiyan stuff. These all go up. Oops. Does that sound like not really. Those aren't exactly what I'm looking for. Let's see, energy. Oops, typo in there. That's pretty much the same list. Let's see. What happens if we just type in power? Okay, power got us a little bit more without having the power up. Let's see, we got power downs. We got... That's kind of neat. I'm just playing with the pitch a little bit. The one thing I do know, this is really short. You know, if I... Yeah, it's only 1.5 seconds long. So whatever we choose from these, I want a short one. Let's snag this one. And here, this is like a good candidate for back timing. I'm just gonna use the smart tool to just trim that off, and I'm gonna see like where the sound ends, like right about there. I'm gonna put to the end of the spot, and then I'm just gonna drag this back out to the beginning. And let's see what happens. Okay, so spot be darned. I want to back time it to the punch. So let's open this up. Okay, so it was a little late going by the punch. So just kind of eyeballing this. Okay, that's about where our punch is. Let's try that. There we go. That's kind of cool. It's not everything though. It's cool, but it's not everything. A little bit more build-up, I think, is called for. So let's jump back to here. And kind of want to try something. Where is... Let's go back into our... Trying to find one of these with some low end. Maybe that's a candidate. And let's reverse. That's the right idea. That's not the right sound. Let's try this. Some of those are interesting. One reversed. No, maybe this one. That's actually kind of what I'm hearing there. So let's spot that in. Whoops, didn't make a selection in Pro Tools. All right, so let's try that again. There we go. Okay, and once again, using the back timing technique, I'm just going to trim off the beginning of that, and I'm just going to match this up on the tail end to where the punch is. Close enough. And we'll just kind of let this... Let's try like that. Okay, that's kind of cool. I'm going to clip gain down this sci-fi weird sound I put in a little bit. Oh, that's kind of neat, actually. Cool. Let's go with that for starters. And let's see, this is another, there's a power-up here. We can see Saitama's cape is flapping after the impact of the last punch, so there's just so much power, it's like actually moving stuff around. So I want to do another kind of reverse thing into that big punch there. So, in the interest of doing that, let's find another... let's see if we pitch this down a little bit and reverse it. Maybe we pitch down. Maybe we don't want to pitch down. No, I don't think we want to pitch down. Okay. Spot you in. And once again, back timing is useful. I think that's where the punch was, right? I warned you I use R&T a lot. Okay, it hangs for a second. Is that good or bad? I think it's good. I think you want that little split second of quiet in there to make the punch even bigger. And I think I want to play that down. Give it a little longer fade in. Yeah, let's go with that. For now. That's an uneducated guess. We don't have everything in here, but I'm thinking we're gonna want that little bit of a gap. I kind of did that by accident, but when I heard it, it's like, oh wait, dynamic range is a thing. We want to go from really low to really high for that hit. Okay, here, energy for living in this purple, I don't know, speed line zone that they're in. I actually know exactly what I want from this. Want that Super Saiyan power up. We're going to do a little bit of an homage to another ridiculously overpowered. Yeah, sure. Let's just grab an arbitrary amount and just chunk it into our selection there. This is one case where me having the selection actually made instead of just having the cursor on the timeline like that, filled it in exactly where it needs to go. So now it's just a matter of just giving a little quick fade to match that the picture dissolve on the front end. And let's see, what do we got on the back end? Just like a one frame fade out, just so it doesn't pop. All right, let's see. Okay, sure. Like I said, roughing it in. Give it a little bit of a clip gain down. Okay, so this is beams and energy. Here we get to our beams. So there's our first beam, and this is only a half second. Yeah, it's only a half second long. So I kind of remember there was a beam sound that I liked. Crystal Cannon was the name of that one. And let's see, we got a couple flavors of this. Okay, initial thoughts. I don't want the short ones. At least not now. I like when these sustain ones get going. There's like this weird retro frequency shifty thing going on that I like. We're just gonna have to heavily edit the length of this, because if I look at this, this is selection down here in the bottom right corner. You can see selected. I have almost 4 seconds selected, so this is definitely like more than double the length it needs to be, but let's just throw it in. Yeah, and we can see we're just going way past. We actually like went on top of another spot, so let's just make sure we don't destroy that. Let's move down here. Okay, so we know where we want it to turn on, right there. But then it needs to be out by the time the blast happens. So for this, I want to identify where the sound is ending. Right about there. So I'm just going to cut this. Control E, Command E on a Mac. And let's just use all that. Let's see. Okay, so there's our blast happening right there. Let's try this. And now let's just cross our fingers and hope that this crossfades cleanly. Sometimes you get lucky. We'll find out. Oh, okay. That was a pleasant surprise. I couldn't even really tell that I had crossfaded it. So let's get it out of there to make room for the next one. And let's see. Okay, we might be onto something there. All right, here's our next one. Okay, I believe this, yeah, this one's a little bit longer. This one might be nearing a full second in length. I'll tab over here and we can grab one of the longer ones. I mean, it's still way too long, but throw it in here. And let's just get the front end of that timed. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing I did before and I hope I get lucky again. All right, there's our end of our sound. Just come out here. S to trim that all off. Go away. Okay, and there's the end of the spot. There's our blast. Yeah, so that's what we want. That. And like that. Simple crossfade, and let's see. Okay. And the two different, like, quote unquote, takes of this, I think, are sufficiently different that it provides a good amount of interest. Yeah. Just a little bit of a different flavor. This one is 1 second in length. All right. Let's just grab this one. Sure, we're just grabbing a different one every time. The benefit of having a series at your disposal. And once again, the magic of back timing. Wow, it's crazy how well this beam sound is just like fading over itself. So it seems to be, you know, working for this kind of. We have to kind of tailor the length a little bit. But as long as we're conscious of making sure we have our beginning and our end, what happens in the middle isn't really vitally important. Let's get that out a little quicker. Okay. All right, so this next spot, this is like the sparks and stuff of them coming together. Are we missing a punch for this? I think we... We might be missing something there. I don't know, we'll find out. We're roughing it in. Big Control S. And elec for electricity brings up all the electricity categories using our UCS file naming scheme. And I mentioned earlier, I kind of like the higher frequency, not too robotic. That's nice. That's got a nice little kick to it. Let's just snag that a little bit right there. Oh, I didn't take enough, it seems. Let's find out. Oh yeah, I need that to be longer. Let's undo that. Let's just grab a healthier chunk. And then we get this awkward stutter at the end. Let's just press S to lose that. Fade that out. We got another beam. Maybe I should have just finished all the beams. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting too excited with everything that I'm hearing here. So actually, in the interest of not doing that again, let me cut in all the sparks real quick, and then we'll go back to the beam. At least I remember the name of it. Okay, we're going to need some longer ones. Let's try that. Let's see, we got one more sparking, clashing thing there. Okay, I think that takes care of all of our sparks. Let's throw you up here where you're on the spark track. I don't know, it just arbitrarily kind of became the spark track somehow. Okay, so now we can finish jumping to our beams, now that I got ahead of myself. Sustained. We didn't use this little short guy, the one that's naturally short. Let's see, is it long enough? Maybe that's more for this one. Sure. Sometimes there's not really rhyme or reason to it. It just... Yeah, I think that is actually really cool for that one. Okay, so now, I'm getting ahead of myself again. All right, we're back on this one. This is our goal. We need to get a beam in for this guy. I don't think we used the first one. Sure. I mean, obviously, it's way, way, way too long. But we'll make do. And let's see, we want to lose all of that. Pressing S. Oh, we actually have a really long one here. Okay, that's cool. Good. It's going to feel good to utilize more of one of these files. All right, we haven't used this one in a minute. I want to make sure I'm using the same... I'm not going to use the same take over and over again, but we do need to keep it within the same sound, I think, for you know, character consistency and all that stuff. Let's see what happens there. And I don't think we can possibly get this out fast enough to just make room for the insanity that's about to ensue. Okay, I think we missed an explosion there too. Well, we'll do a quality control spot check here in a little bit. Okay, this spot here, I noticed there's this weird little wiggle in the beam. Let's go a little larger. That right there. Thinking I want something fun for this. I want to just bring a little bit of levity in to something that's been very serious. So let's find us a nice anime wobble. Uh-oh, that might be it. Oh, that might be it too. Oh yeah, let's try that. There we go, it kind of picks up there. Oops, I accidentally pressed E, and we went to full screen mode. So let me just rectify my clumsy button pushing. All right, and let's just roll it back and see. Timing is a little weird. Okay, and I'm going to clip gain that down. I think that's the right sound. I kind of want it to be more subtle because, like I mentioned earlier, One Punch Man is very funny, but it's not like overtly funny. It's a little more subtle, so I don't want to go too far with it. Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to like this. What do we got here? Oh, did I accidentally destroy my... Yeah, I lost a beam somewhere. In my haste, I'm overlapping things. Oh, and I'm punching the mic too. In my haste, I'm kind of forgetting about things, and I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm actually like trying not to just kind of chuckle at how this is turning out. Sustained. Okay, that was the short one. Oops. And I don't want it there. I want it there. Nope. There it is. Okay. That's getting fun. Okay, that takes care of that one. Okay, so here we kind of go very, very briefly into kind of like a slow-mo feel. So yes, I'm gonna want some sort of like beam energy for this pink stuff, ectoplasm, whatever you want to call that. But I want a different flavor for this. Something with a little more drama, because we go to this slow-mo and then we go to the insanity of that. So what is that? I don't know. I'm gonna have to jump in and let's look at some laser beams. LASR, BEAM. Oh. I guess caps matter. It's interesting. Okay. I want a longer one as well. So I'm going to type in sus for sustained. And I don't know, let's just listen to some of these. That's the one we've been using. Okay, now we might be onto something there. Because it has this like rise, fall. That might be it right there. Okay, now obviously that's way too long. And I think I actually wanted to start maybe when we see that kind of like explosion debris. Let's try that. I don't know. All right. All right, so I'm developing this theory here that we actually don't need to hear this sound end. I think by the time the explosion occurs, and this is just a guess, I'm thinking by the time the explosion occurs, we can just have that just pop right out like immediately, and we're not even gonna miss it. Yeah, I don't think we actually need to hear the end of that because in the show, in the story, the beam is interrupted because you just got destroyed by One Punch Man. Okay, and then the last little bit of energy, it's this moment. Yeah, the gleam. I think, we would be doing a terrible disservice to ourselves if we didn't put some ridiculous anime like light beam kind of thing there. Let's see. I think I remember. Was this it? Let's see if this is it. Oops. Okay, now this, like the last one, once the explosion happens, we do not need to be hearing the tail end of that. So let's just, for the sake of the clarity in the mix, let's just give that the same fade out. Well, okay, maybe not as drastic, but the idea still applies. And just a little trial and error here. I'm just trying to find the one that sounds natural. At least for this rough. Okay, so that would be our beams and energy so far for our rough. Let's take a quick look. All right. I feel like something was missing. Yes. Okay. So when I was spotting, I missed the electricity stuff that would go right about there. So let's just make sure we get that while I'm thinking about it. Let's just try this first one. Okay, and it's just got this little bit on the end that I'm not super psyched about. But other than that, let's see. Just touching up some fades here. Cool, it's getting there. I'm noticing some stuff already from the first pre-dub that I want to touch up, but in the name of the rough, we will plow ahead to our CFX pre-dub, which is quote unquote everything else. So let's open up this folder and get ourselves zoomed in. Okay, now this is kind of a grab bag, so I'm just gonna have to kind of look at every spot and see what did I put here? Oh, I think that was just a spot for the punch that we already have in there. Okay, here, this is the intense flurry of punches. Get rid of the old search terminology. Okay, this punch sequence might be interesting. Too slow. Maybe too fast. Let's check that timing real quick. Oh, it's utter insanity. So here's something. The picture edit here, and just the animation of it, it's so insane. Like if let's go a little bit bigger here, right click on the image and just make it half size. If I frame advance, like, you know, what really is even happening in there, I have no idea. So going frame by frame and trying to sync up individual punches for something like this, I think is just going to be dumb. So let's just, if I could stop bumping the mic, let's just watch and get a sense of the pacing of it. So to me, that's kind of like boom, 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 kind of like that. I don't know. It's kind of loose, just the rhythm of it. Yeah, I think this tempo is the closest. Not destroy this other spot though. Okay, and it just kind of happens to more or less fit within that spot. So let's just sync up the first one and let's just see if it even just kind of feels okay. Okay, we're missing one. How does it feel if I back time it? And I can always add one to the beginning. Okay, I think that might be okay. Let's see how. I'm just gonna get lazy and just see if I can cheat this. Let's see what's the timing between our 2 frames between punches. There. I'm just eyeballing this. Don't try this at home, kids. Here we go. Okay, I just got away with murder there. But okay, yeah, I think that's good timing wise. It needs more something. The punch alone is not doing it for me. Let's see what else we got. I feel like there was a swish somewhere. It was like a bunch of them. I thought I heard it when we were skipping through sounds earlier. There we go. So these are all a little too slow. Let's try this at like 120, whoops, 120% speed. Oh wow, did it just happen to be like the same number of hits? Am I just getting like, oh wait, no. Well, let's see. It's close, it's almost working. Just want to get this last one right. Okay, so let's see. It's like it ends okay. The last... I'm not sold on the beginning part though. Oops. I like this part. I just used A to trim off the beginning. You know, I might... No, that's not going to work. Trial and error is a pretty big portion of this. Boy, I wish I could make this work better somehow, but I don't know. Let's keep it in our back pocket. Let's look for a gun. What do we got here? Okay, we got some that are like automatic and some that are singles. Let's try auto. Just narrow that down. I like this one. I think it's long enough though. Let's check our pacing again. Okay. Just getting that rhythm in my head. That again. All right, so I'm just lining up this very last gunshot with the last punch. And then Let's see, they don't quite. I'm just eyeballing the waveform visually. We kind of want where they look similar to be like kind of a line there. Of course, I'm missing a punch, so let's adjust real quick. Okay, and then these, clearly that's not going to work where these overlap. So let's solo Shift S. Okay, that's our last shot there. So let's get that. Let's get that chopped off, and let's get that crossfaded. Okay. Maybe just kind of about playing with this a little bit more than I want to. Okay, there's something about the kind of the loop there that isn't perfect, but again, we're just kind of roughing. I just want to get a feel for this. And this is just a layer anyway. It's just to give some extra energy to the punch sounds. Okay, I realized my camera died there for the picture-in-picture. So we got a fresh battery in there, and I'm just going to pick up where I left off. We are still in the CFX pre-dub, aka everything else. So I was kind of working on tightening up this like fast flurry of punches. And I think it's close enough for a rough cut. I think I want to leave that how it is. I don't want to get too far in the weeds of like trying to get that perfect when it's kind of close enough, and then we can kind of judge what is still missing in a little bit. Okay, so just moving on. That's another punch. I already took care of that in the A pre-dub, so I just lose that. Simple delete there. Okay, this... I kind of want a couple of things here. I guess this is for like his feet skidding on the ground. There's a lot of like cape movement. And then this is the Boros's approach. I feel like he needs a whoosh or something to see him off the screen there. And so I'm not really entirely sure what I'm looking for the sound of his feet tearing through the ground. You know, could be something rocky, could be some sort of debris, could be something just totally off the wall. So I'm just going to look around and see what we got. Let's see, what do we got for debris? That might be interesting. I don't want that the transient, but this debris sound reversed. Oops. Try that again. Correctly this time. Here we go. And let's see, I know we have like a blast sound for when One Punch Man takes off right there. So the hotkey I just used there was Windows Control click, or it'll be Command Control click on a Mac. And that is just to move the tail of the clip to where my cursor was. That one can come in handy at times. All right, so now we've got that back time. Let's see, I'm looking for the frame where his feet hit the ground. There it is. But he's still pretty far away from us, so this is going to be a big fade in until his position is pretty much uniform. I'd say about there-ish. Okay, it's a layer. It's definitely a layer. Just kind of getting that sliding. I'm gonna lengthen that even though it doesn't visually match up. The fade's a little longer than it would be visually, but I just think it sounds better. Yeah, that might be something. I think we want another layer. I don't know. Here's something I do sometimes. I just sort it by duration. Like, I feel like I want something longer here, and what that is, I don't know. That might be it. I'll use these. Maybe something like that. I don't know. Jury's out on that one. I do want to try this. I do want to try just a little bit of that. Oh, I sent more than I bargained for there. It's a long recording. It's like way longer than the video even is. All right, so I'll select this one. Semicolon to move the selection down, Control T to trim it. And let's just see how that feels. Okay, that's a start. Okay, and then this one is like a whoosh for Boros coming past the camera there. Okay. That's right speed. Make sure I didn't destroy anything there. Okay, I didn't. See, that's where our wish comes in, so let's find when our move Boros begins. Let's say there. Kind of losing him in the blast. Could gain that up a little bit. No, not really too crazy about that. I'm not sure what I want to do for him now. Okay, so maybe it was just a matter of timing. I think I had that too early. All right, I'm not sold on that, but for the sake of the rough, we can circle back around. And what have we here? Okay, these I intended to be the ricochet sounds, to go just ever so slightly after the different acceleration bursts that happen. And these we had already kind of found. So this is bullet Rico. And I've got to remember that it is cap sensitive. Yeah, I think number 2 and number 3 are the ones I liked here. So there's several of them in a row. So this is just kind of a select the whole thing and just throw my cursor there. And let's just spot the whole thing in. And we'll just do this quick. Checkerboard. And then we are just Windows clicking or command clicking to get all of those timed in. Well, let's see. Okay, I think the whole lot of them need to move like a frame to the right. Period to do that. Actually, those were okay where they were. Okay, so that is all of the spots in our C pre-dub. All right, cool. So one of the cool things about the folder tracks that I'm using for these pre-dubs is you can kind of see now within it where all the sounds are, and we can see like where different densities of sound are and stuff like that. I just find it interesting just to see. And let's do this too. We can just open the folders now. And then to fit everything to screen, it's the 3-fingered salute, Control Windows Alt, and then the up arrow or Control Command option on a Mac. And now we can kind of see. So here's our rough. Okay, so I'm just going to run this from the top now. And I'm just gonna like kind of take some notes mentally for what still needs touching up. But I think we're off to a good start here. Let's find out. I'm gonna go full screen or near full screen. Let's go actual size here. And let's just take a look. Okay, so very much still a work in progress, but I think it's showing some good promise. The big notes for me that I'm noticing is some parts are a little empty, namely right here. We need some sort of like ambient BG something to kind of fill this. It may be just like crazy wind, but right now it's truly a full second of essentially silence through there after that explosion ends. So that needs some touching up. The other thing I'm seeing is when we get to this bit, I missed or maybe just miscalculated what I wanted these big punches to sound like, or when they collide with each other. Yeah, where we're hearing the electric sparks, this sound. While that layer is good, it's still just completely missing like a punch or an explosion or some like heavy impact for the the actual punch that's happening there. So yeah, the electricity itself is not going to do it. We need something a lot larger there, so I need to work on that. And then we get a little. I'm not too thrilled with exactly how the explosion is kind of layered here. I need to kind of tweak the explosion and get it kind of more or less in line with where I want it. So now that I've got this rough together and I have some notes in mind of what I want to clean up, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to subject you all to that. I'm going to take maybe like half an hour and hit those trouble spots and really get them polished up. And then we'll come back and take a look at where I ended up landing on my final edit. Okay, so I looked at my rough. Like I mentioned, there was a bunch of stuff that needed to be cleaned up. And then, me just being picky, when I got in there and started cleaning some of that other stuff, I realized I want to clean this and that. This is the final that I ended up with. So I'm going to make the screen bigger and let's take a look at my final sound redesign for this epic scene from One Punch Man. Okay, so there it was. And just keep in mind, this is an edit. This is not a mix. In the actual mix of a show like this, there's going to be other considerations there. You're going to have dialogue. I don't know how much talking they do, but there's definitely going to be like some vocal effort sounds and stuff of that nature, screams, yells, throughout this whole scene, surely. There's also going to be music. The soundtrack to One Punch Man is pretty high energy. So that's taking up a lot of the sonic space. And you have to consider stuff like panning, of which I did absolutely none. Reverb, delay effects, stuff like that to put it into a space. Again, none of that done. This is strictly an edit. So in the mix for something like this, for a scene this crazy, there's a lot of give and take. Just because I cut all these sounds doesn't mean that the re-recording mixer is going to elect to use all of these sounds, or that they're not going to elect to push the music or push the vocal elements higher in the mix and kind of lower what I've done. So as a sound editor, it's my job to just add in everything I can think of. And then not get cranky about it when the mixer decides that they want to play up one of the other elements. Of course, as a sound designer, I always want to hear my stuff, but the composer wants to hear their stuff, dialogue editor wants to hear their stuff, so it's a little bit of give and take. Unfortunately, usually somebody else is mixing it and they get to make those decisions, and the rest of us just live with it. All right, well, that was my sound redesign tutorial for One Punch Man. I hope that watching that scene made you motivated to check out the series if you haven't already. It's truly awesome. Thanks to Pro Sound Effects for allowing us to do this. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you want to see any more content. We're thinking of doing something with the modular synths, maybe going through some of the sound design on the synthesizer, how we created these sounds. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.